They say desire is a fire, one that warms you if controlled but burns you to ash when left unchecked. I never understood the truth of that until I found myself consumed by it. This is my story, raw and unfiltered, about how temptation crept into my life, disrupted everything I thought I knew, and left me questioning my very essence. It all began innocently, as these things often do. My life was comfortable, predictable even. I had a loving partner, a steady job, and a group of friends who would rally behind me no matter what. But beneath the surface of my seemingly perfect life, there was a restlessness. It wasn't that I was unhappy, but I was unsatisfied. The spark in my daily routine had dimmed to embers. Then I met him. Let's call him Alex. He wasn't extraordinary by any conventional standard, yet something about him was magnetic. Maybe it was his confidence, the way he seemed to move through the world with an ease I envied. Or perhaps it was the way he noticed things about me that no one else did. At first, our conversations were casual, just small talk over coffee breaks at work. But soon, they became the highlight of my day. Looking back, I see how it started. A laugh too long, a gaze that lingered a moment more than it should have. It was intoxicating. I convinced myself that it was harmless, that a little flirtation never hurt anyone. But desire doesn't play by the rules of logic. As days turned into weeks, I found myself craving his attention. I'd wake up anticipating the moments we'd steal together, crafting excuses to be near him. It wasn't just physical. It was emotional, intellectual, and even spiritual. He made me feel seen, as though he understood parts of me that I had kept hidden even from myself. It didn't take long for the lines to blur. A shared dinner under the guise of discussing a work project became an intimate conversation that stretched late into the night. There was a charge in the air, an unspoken acknowledgement of what was happening. Yet neither of us addressed it outright. That would make it real, and neither of us was ready for that. And then it happened. A moment that changed everything. One night, as we stood under the dim glow of a street lamp, he reached for my hand. It was such a small gesture, yet it carried the weight of all the unspoken desires that had been building between us. My heart raced as I looked into his eyes, and in that moment, I knew there was no turning back. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Every touch, every stolen kiss felt like an explosion of color in a world that had grown gray. But with every high came a shadow of guilt. I was betraying someone who trusted me completely, and the weight of that betrayal grew heavier with each passing day. I started lying, to my partner, to my friends, even to myself. I told myself that what Alex and I had was special, that it was worth the risk. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. It wasn't love. It was obsession. And like any obsession, it began to consume me. Work became an escape. The only place where I could be with Alex without raising suspicion. But even there, the walls started closing in. Colleagues began to notice the lingering glances, the way we'd disappear at the same time. Gossip spread like wildfire, and I could feel their judgment in every sideways glance. One night, as I sat alone in my living room, the reality of my choices hit me like a freight train. My partner, who had trusted me implicitly, had started to sense that something was wrong. The guilt that had been simmering beneath the surface now boiled over, and I felt like a stranger in my own skin. Alex and I had crossed a line that couldn't be undone. The passion that once felt exhilarating now felt suffocating, like a wildfire that had spiraled out of control. Every text message, every meeting, every touch was a reminder of the web of lies I had woven around myself. And the worst part? I wasn't sure I could stop. The inevitable happened on a stormy evening, fitting for the chaos brewing in my life. My partner confronted me. I had come home late, drenched from the rain, only to find him sitting in the living room with a look that pierced straight through me. "Is there someone else?" he asked, his voice calm but trembling with pain. I froze. For all the lies I had told, for all the deceit I had woven, I couldn't find the words to deny it. Tears welled up in my eyes as I nodded and his face crumbled. It was as though I had taken the very foundation of our relationship and shattered it into a million irreparable pieces. He left that night. The silence that followed was deafening, a void that swallowed me whole. I sat alone in the dark, replaying every decision that had led me to this moment. The house, once filled with warmth and love, now felt cold and empty. The days that followed were a blur. My partner's absence was a constant reminder of what I had lost. Friends who once stood by me now kept their distance, their silence speaking volumes. Even Alex, who had once been the center of my world, began to pull away. The passion that had bound us together now felt like a chain, heavy and suffocating. One afternoon, as I sat at my desk at work, Alex walked in. He looked different. Tired, distant. "We need to talk," he said. My heart sank. I knew what was coming. He told me that he couldn't do this anymore, that the guilt and the secrecy were too much to bear. And just like that, he was gone. I was left alone, grappling with the wreckage of my choices. The fire of desire that had once burned so brightly had left nothing but ashes in its wake. I had lost my partner, my friends, and even Alex. But more than that, I had lost myself. It took months for me to begin piecing my life back together. Therapy became a lifeline, a place where I could confront the choices I had made and the person I had become. I had to face the truth about myself. The restlessness, the need for validation, and the emptiness I had tried to fill with fleeting passion. Slowly, I began to rebuild. I reached out to my partner, not to ask for forgiveness, but to apologize. It was a painful conversation, but it was necessary. I worked on mending friendships, though some wounds were too deep to heal. Most importantly, I started working on myself, learning to find fulfillment and happiness within, rather than seeking it from others. Looking back, I see my experience with temptation not as a story of failure, but as a lesson. Desire is powerful, but it is also fleeting. It can ignite passion, but it can also destroy if left unchecked. I learned the importance of honesty, both with others and with myself. I learned that true happiness comes not from the thrill of the forbidden, but from the quiet contentment of living authentically. The dark side of desire showed me my flaws, but it also showed me my strength. It tore my life apart, but it also gave me the opportunity to rebuild it stronger than before. And for that, I am grateful.